Hey guys, Bloodwolf here. Today we're going through the beta patch notes. This is for patch 0.1.087. The gameplay you see in the background isn't my own, it's of my guildmates, but I'll leave a link in the description to the gameplay below. There are 111 new fixes in this update, so I won't be going through all of them, but I'll leave a link to the patch notes in the description box below as well. First of all, we have CPU optimization. The GPU versus CPU balance has been greatly improved. Players should now see improved performance across the board if their hardware was previously CPU bound. We have a bunch of crash fixes, which is great that they're fixing these, but generally coming across crashes is quite rare in most cases, so the chances that you have come across these is probably quite low. But of course it's very important to fix crashes. Next we have world changes and fixes. They've added a ton of new content to Haven and Fabinum. We have a new Haven mentor and anatomy tutor. We have a new priest in Fab Tower in Haven. We have new training dummies in Fabinum and Haven. We have a new priest in Haven. There's wells that have been added to Haven, but they've also been added to Majuli and Kranesh as well. They've made the door entrance to the Fabinum and Haven bank wider. As it says here, they've cleaned up some vendor props as well in Fabinum and Haven. They've also added more variations of bandits and populated more bandit camps, so that's going to be really interesting to see. One big problem recently has been full damage. They've completely reworked the system and it's now calculated instead of percentage based, it's actually number based. Full damage now scales by health points rather than percentage of total health. That means that players with the same attributes and skills but with more health can survive greater falls, which makes sense. Compared to before, it didn't matter how much health you had. If you fell the same distance as someone else, even though you had more health, you would both take the same amount of damage. It was percentage based. Full damage is reduced to the player if they're on a mount, which is great. There was a big bug where mounts would take huge amounts of damage from falling. That's also in the patch notes, I'll go over that in a second. Player total weight, so that's armor, inventory, and the body of your player itself, now affects full damage. A lighter character can survive greater heights than, say, a heavier character. Mounts have a steeper full damage curve than players and will vary based on mount type, so depending on what pet you're riding will vary on how much full damage it's going to take. Mounts will also be affected by player weight, so if you're going on a Wiser run and you're hundreds and hundreds of kilos heavy, then you're going to take a ton of full damage. Next we're on to characters and AI. Altogether the AI movement has been rewritten and the AI movement has improved from the looks of here. Creatures should move easier over bumps on the ground and should no longer cause large realignments for the creature. Characters will no longer be like floating above the air or in the ground, which is great. One also good thing is several spawners in the game for AI have been releashed again. So for example, you would have bandits that would just chase you forever. They wouldn't leave you alone. It doesn't matter if you were miles away from them, they would still be chasing you, but now they have a leash on them that will pull them back to their original spawn. And certain AI now has stronger leashes than others. Tamed AI should now be looked at by guards as if they looked at the owner. So if you're a criminal and the guards would normally attack you, normally before this patch they would leave your pets alone. Now if you're a criminal they will attack your pets as well. And bandits now drop heads when they're killed. Some more character and AI instead of changes, it's now some more fixes. AI now recover from parving a lot easier, and they also drop loot bags closer to where they were killed. Now we're moving on to VOIP. So one thing that's been changed is that you can now mute and unmute players, which is great for those annoying people who are spamming loud music in VoIP chat or generally just being abusive and toxic. You can now mute those players, which is great. All you have to do, I'm assuming, is type in /mute and type in their name afterwards or look at them. I'm not entirely sure on that, but it's great now that you can mute players. Here we have a bunch of UI changes next. You can now change the size of your cursor, and you can change whether it's darker or lighter in colour. Other UI fixes include skills and skill tree no longer show inaccurate attribute bonuses. You can no longer swap items into the Haven Bank on Mirrorland by using a the drop replace exploit. You no longer split stacks when dead. Players were able to get matte stacks in their character creation by changing their gender over and over, so they fixed that exploit. Now we're moving on to gameplay, interaction and balancing changes. The light from torches now has an increased radius. We have stackable buffs now should increase their own effectiveness only once. Extraction now scales the amount of XP you gain by the quantity of materials you put into extracting rather than the many of times you're extracting, which is great because it would suck when you put in like 10,000, a whole stack of granum and you would only gain 1 skill point, compared to say if you put that granum in one at a time, you could level it each time. Players can now move whilst being resurrected, so it's going to be a lot easier to get away from people who are trying to spawn camp you. You can no longer extract and refine if you're dead. They fixed a few murder and criminal tagging stuff here. Getting hit by someone should now trigger criminal flag even if the person has hit you before. The murder list no longer holds players in it until you die, so that means if you got hit by another player like hours ago and he didn't kill you, and then you die, you can't then report him in the city. Healing criminals is now a criminal act, which is great because that you would have one guy running around the city killing people and his guildmates would be continuously healing him. The Fursa and human size bonus from clay gifts have been reduced as well. Now we have some fixes for gameplay interaction and balancing. They fixed an issue where your child skill could level up higher than your parent's skill, so they fixed that now, which is great. They fixed an issue where books that would try to add XP to a skill you did not have yet. One thing that would annoy me is when you would kill an enemy, their body would be blocking the loot bag. They've now fixed that now as well, so you can loot the bag even straight away after you've killed the enemy. Now on to pets and mounts changes. So they've improved the horse turning and banking behavior, so it now should be less twitchy and unpleasant when moving the horse. Now the faster you move with your horse, the slower it is to turn, which makes sense. Mounts can now adjust to the slope of the ground below them when being controlled by a player. Mounts can also swim when mounted by a player, but they will drain stamina and they will float to the surface. But I believe that if you get off your mount, the mount still can't move in water, so if you're in water or on your horse, then you should stay on it. Now we have a few fixes for pets and mounts. Pets and owner will now be flagged as criminal when attacking another player. So this was a big exploit that was happening. People would set their pets to attack other players and nothing would happen. The guards wouldn't attack them, they wouldn't become a murderer or a criminal for killing or attacking this other player, so people could just set their mounts, their pets, onto players and kill them in cities and the guards would do nothing. So that's now has been fixed, which is great. Attacking a tame pet that is considered criminal will no longer make you a criminal, which is also good. Pet skills should be draggable again. I noticed that I couldn't drag any of my pet skills onto my hotbar, so that should be able to be done now. Here we are. Mounts should no longer randomly die from seemingly safe fall heights. So there was a big bug where you would literally fall like centimeters with your horse and they would die instantly. So that's been fixed now. Pets can no longer attack themselves. I accidentally done this before when I tamed a wolf and I accidentally told it to attack itself and I almost killed the wolf I just tamed. Stamina in a very rare occasion would go negative for mounts. I'm not exactly sure how that worked and I never experienced that bug. And now that's all the changes and fixes for this patch. There are some known issues with this patch that they've posted at the bottom of the patch notes. They're just here. That's all the fixes for patch 0.1.087. That's a bit of a mouthful. Let me know what you guys think of any of these fixes and updates in this video. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to support the channel and see more. I'll see you guys either in game or in the next video. Peace out.